And welcome to this episode of House of Horrors. You are stuck with me today. I don't know which day of the 118th session of the House of Horrors it is, but I will say it's too many days that Kevin McCarthy has been allowed to be speaker in name only. The real speaker of the House is going to waste our time and taxpayer dollars going to visit traitors to our country, whom she's referring to as political prisoners. I really hope the media ignore her and her stunt, but I'm pretty sure they won't. As you know, speaking of wasted time, in an entire week of our lives was wasted with the nonsense. You know what? I was going to say the nonsense coming out of New York. There's no nonsense coming out of New York. The only nonsense is coming out of Donald and the media who continue to follow his lead for whatever reason. And, while we were focused on an indictment that nobody had said was coming, nobody in a position to know had said was coming, we kind of took our eyes off all sorts of other things that were happening. Um, and that would include the extraordinarily vile and dangerous rhetoric coming out of Donald's whatever Troth Central feed, um, plus a whole bunch of other things. I mean, the red states are trying to pass and succeeding in passing some of the most cruel anti-trans laws sorry, bills that I have ever seen. It's just they're finding new ways to surpass themselves in terms of their inhumanity. So but this show is supposed to be about the House of Representatives. So I every once in a while they'll like to take the time just to either refocus or talk about other issues that are relevant or important. Now, I think the Alvin Bragg's grand jury in New York City, which may or may not decide to indict Donald on various charges, potential felony charges, in the case in which he paid Stormy Daniels, an adult film actor, to keep her from talking to the press about I can't really even call it an affair. He had they sorry, I just don't really like thinking about it. They had a very brief illicit encounter while and it only illicit because he was married. I don't believe he had his wife's permission, and she had just had their first child. So, it was not a great circumstance, and clearly it wouldn't he believed that it wouldn't go over well with voters. Now this happened years ago, way before he ran for president in 2016, but, they assumed it would be problematic if, voters knew that he was cheating on his wife who had just had a baby. Typically not a good look. Today, it would probably be considered a badge of honor in today's Republican Party, but, even that short time ago, it probably would have been frowned upon. Although, you know what? That's exactly what we thought about his vile misogynistic comments about how he so happily likes to sexually assault women. Anyway, the paradigm keeps shifting in a way that makes me wildly uncomfortable. But the reason that this issue has to do with the House of Representatives, particularly Republicans in the House, is because they are taking these extraordinary steps to insert the federal government into what is a local law enforcement decision. Alvin Bragg is a district attorney for New York City, or actually Manhattan. Not even the whole city, because New York City is absolutely enormous. So I think that Manhattan has more people in it than the district that McCarthy represents in California. So it's still a huge district for Bragg to be in charge of. And That would be like Senate Democrats inserting themselves into Florida politics and telling Ron DeSantis, he can't pass all of the egregious laws he and the Republican controlled state Senate and House are passing. Now, look, part of me is like, well, I would be happy with that because the things they're doing are so egregious, but it's not how it works. And it's setting a really dangerous precedent. What Republicans in the House are saying, essentially, is that the rule of law must be upheld except as applied to Donald Trump. Okay. This is obviously this is new, although they're always finding new ways to outdo themselves when it comes to being sycophantic and enabling Donald. But this is just the latest in a very long string of people and institutions who have allowed or put Donald in a position to get away with things. So, and this part has nothing to do with the House, but listen, I think we're going to be wrapped up in the next several weeks and months with all of these indictments that potentially might be coming down. There's a trial that's going to be starting in about a month. So I want to make sure that we know what's going on, but we also moderate our expectations. I said something yesterday, and it got some I got some constructive criticism, which I welcome. So thank you to everybody who let me know what you were thinking, because I think it is worth figuring out how to be on the same page. It's worth figuring out how not to be demoralized, how not to set ourselves up for disappointment. We need to be pragmatic. We need to be realistic and approach this in a pragmatic way. I don't want anybody being defeatist either. So, we've got to, it's like that same needle we need to thread when it comes to how much attention do we pay to Donald. Now, we unfortunately can't ignore him all the time as much as we would like to, but we need to ignore him sometimes. Like this past week would have been a really good time to ignore him. But here we are. And because he's gotten so much attention for nothing, he has again been unleashing some of the most vile rhetoric yet. I don't think he's crazy, or it's fascinating when he puts out a truth or whatever they're called on his quite pathetic social media network in all caps at 4 a.m. People start talking about how he's more unhinged than ever. I'm like, we've been playing this game for a really long time. What happened is he needed attention. He told a very melodramatic lie. A lot of people fell for it, and suddenly he had a platform again to set up a situation in which somebody potentially could do his bidding for him. Let's put it this way. I hope Mr. Bragg has lots of security. And I hope at some point in the not too distant future, a judge determines that not only as Donald engaged in very ill-advised, shall we say, rhetoric, but also potentially dangerous rhetoric. I hope they find that he obstructed justice or something, because it's just incredible. I don't want to repeat it really. It's just he's essentially calling for violence, and in some cases calling for violence against a specific individual. And that all happened because he lied and people took him at his word, which last I checked is something nobody should ever do. So I said something like, and this I think was related to Dahlia's comments that, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Nothing, things are happening. It may not be as quickly as we want. The wrong case, he might be indicted for the wrong thing first. He may not get indicted for the things we want him to be indicted for. Seriously, like if one more person gives me the Al Capone got sent to prison for tax fraud example, my head might explode. So, I get it. It's not satisfying, but we can't, be stepping all over each other to be more to be holier than thou about these things. We need to be united and in believing that yes, there needs to be accountability, and we have to, because we are not in a position of power here. We have to accept what we get and try to create a situation in which the accountability is meaningful, right? So, I think I said something along the lines of, at least based on the constructive criticism I got, that just the fact that he's facing indictments, that he's going to trial, that he's in the process of being held accountable. I wish I had had time to look at what I said specifically, but that's what people were saying I said, and that by saying that, I was lowering the bar and kind of setting up a double standard for him. So let me just clarify what I meant and then kind of address the bigger picture. He hasn't been indicted yet. True. But he is going to trial. The E. Jean Carroll case is going to trial in a month. And the jury is going to be anonymous, which is an unusual step. It's a step that's sort of reserved for mob bosses, quite honestly. And this is why Judge Lewis Kaplan, who's not related to E. Jean's attorney, Robbie Kaplan, wrote that he was doing this because there is a very strong risk jurors will fear harassment. Okay. Quote, Mr. Trump's quite recent reaction to what he perceived as an imminent threat of indictment by a grand jury sitting virtually next door to this court was to encourage protest and to urge people to take our country back. That reaction reportedly has been perceived by some as an incitement to violence. And it bears mention that Mr. Trump repeatedly has attacked courts, judges, various law enforcement officials, and other public officials, and even individual jurors in other matters. And so have Donald's minions. I mean, think about what Giuliani and Donald did to Shay Moss and her mom in Florida. They were just election workers trying to do their jobs, and their lives have been destroyed. So, I hope they win their case, their legal case, defamation case. So the reason I think that's important is because judges are paying attention to what's going on. Also, they don't like being defied. Okay. So I think what I should have said, what would have been more accurate, is that the process of accountability is unfolding. Right? Does that mean that Donald will be held accountable? No, unfortunately, there's no slam dunk here. But because the process is unfolding, that increases the likelihood that he will be. I don't at all believe we should lower expectations or create a double standard for him. That's been going on for 7 decades now. All right. But I think that's part of the problem. I don't want to lower the bar. I don't want anybody else to lower the bar. but the bar has been lowered by people, well, through his whole life, but most recently by people like Jeff Sessions when he was Attorney General, and to an even greater extent by Bill Barr, the absolutely corrupt, worst Attorney General in the history of this country, most likely. They took over from the banks and the RNC and the media who'd been giving a Donald a pass his whole adult life. And they took the bar, which was already incredibly low, and they sunk it into the molten core of the planet. So, in that context, what's happening now is should give us some hope that justice will be done. It's not going to look like what we want it to look like. I'm sorry to say, I think that's almost certainly true. I hope I'm wrong. But the point is, there's still the possibility. There will be indictments. He will have to go through that process. It will, because our legal system is geared to favor the rich and the powerful and the white. The process will take much, much longer than it would for anybody else. Also because of his special situation. But because judges like Kaplan, like I said, are paying attention, I don't think Donald's going to be able to continue to get away with what he's been getting away with. In other words, if he is indicted and gets arraigned, gets his mugshot and his fingerprints, and they go to court to set dates, for the sequence of events. If Donald were going to engage in the kind of rhetoric he's been using this week with a judge assigned to the case, I can almost guarantee you there will be consequences. He will not be allowed free rein to say whatever he wants or to threaten whomever he wants. So hopefully that clears it up. If I still suck, let me know. Because listen, I want to get it right. And I misspeak sometimes, and sometimes I'm wrong, which is probably the greatest evidence there is that Donald and I aren't actually related, because I'm willing to admit that. Okay, so again, what's her name is Marjorie Taylor Greene is going on a little field trip to prison to visit insurrectionists who tried to overthrow our government in a violent way. So I love so between that and the fact that the Republican Congress people went to a luxury resort in Orlando, I really do wonder, like, how our system got so broken. Because I'm guessing they're not paying for this stuff out of their own pockets. I could be wrong, but I would be shocked if they were paying their own way. It seems incredibly unlikely to me. I think that's it for today, because honestly, I just wanted to clear that one thing up. And almost not everything, but almost everything that of note that went down in Congress this week, and there wasn't much, had to do with Republicans overstepping, Republicans sort of bending the rule of law in a way that is neither healthy nor democratic. And that sort of sums up this Republican Party. And the other thing that sums them up is that, as we've talked about a few times, the extent to which they all fell in line. Why? Not because Donald was exonerated, not because he came up with a brilliant strategy for, solving climate change or curing cancer. Nope. because he was about to be indicted for a crime he committed, which involved extramarital sex with a porn actor while his baby had just been born and his wife was in the same hotel. So that's what they choose to defend. So please never let anybody tell you that the Republicans are just kind of going along to get along. I never let anybody tell you that they're just, gritting their teeth until this passes. No. If you look at it, Republicans have 3 reactions when they're asked about something outrageous Donald said. They pretend they don't know what you're talking about. They'll say something like, I don't read everything that he puts out on social media. Okay. But he said this. I don't pay attention to everything. And then they read the quote of what he said. I have a meeting. So they just pretend that they don't know. They say something very mild like, he shouldn't have said that. Yes, you're right. He should not be using racist and anti-Semitic tropes to threaten the life of a district attorney. Yes, definitely shouldn't be doing that. Or they're 100% with him. They would say, in response to being told about those racist and anti-Semitic tropes and threats of violence, they would say, well, they're going after him. He deserves to protect himself. Well, you know what? He's not protecting himself. He's trying to incite a bunch of faceless people out there to do his bidding. And that is stochastic terrorism. And that, I think, is the thing we most have to worry about. By the way, last thing, Donald, in his infinite wisdom, is holding a rally in Waco, Texas, on the 30th anniversary of the FBI siege with the Branch Davidians, which ended horrifically. I think almost 100 people were killed in that nightmare. And I don't think Donald knows anything about the Branch Davidians or that siege. He might, if he does, he probably thinks that David Koresh was cool or something. My guess is that this was the brainchild of the execrable Stephen Miller. He probably crawled out from his hole for a minute or two and noticed that it was going to be the 30th anniversary in Waco. So he decided that this would be a great idea. And the reason it's relevant is because I think that's a signal. What they're telling us is that they don't have to hide anything anymore. They are an anti-government cult, and they're coming for us, So you can get tickets online. They're free. So I highly recommend you go buy tickets and don't show up, because one tool in our arsenal that is not used enough, and this is why I like completely am not sure why potential Republican candidates don't understand this. One of the best weapons against Donald is humiliation and insult. I know it feels bad, right? I don't like humiliating people. I never want to belittle anybody. I would make an exception for him, though. We all need to make an exception for him. So it would be really fun if we got all of the tickets. And I mean, I know it probably won't work because they probably have millions of people, or they probably have overflow, and they probably don't limit the number of tickets that you can get, but it's worth a shot. And I do believe it worked once. In Tucson, like some kids on TikTok did some version of this, which I'd totally forgotten about. So why not? I mean, it's tomorrow at the Waco airport for some reason. So yeah, get your tickets. We've got people who are sending their cats or their dogs. A lot of Stormy Daniels are going. Hillary Clinton's going. We've got everybody's getting tickets and not showing. So, if you're into that sort of thing, give it a shot. And hopefully on Tuesday we can talk about what a disaster his Waco rally was. That is it for today. Thank you guys so much for being here. Sorry I was solo, but we'll have somebody cool and interesting next week for sure. And we will see you back here Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for the Mary Trump Show with the Nerd Avengers. Next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And that's our regular hour-long interview show. Haven't had an interview in a while because other things keep coming up. So we will definitely have that next week. And back with the House of Horrors next Friday. Do not forget, we are going live. The Mary Trump Show is going live on stage. And the not too distant future, we have the first show in Chicago on May 7th. The second show is in Portland, Oregon on May 9th. We're in San Francisco on May 10th. And in my backyard in New York City on May 16th. So go to, I think it's politicon.com/tour. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will tell me. It's politicon.com/tour. Oh yeah, look, it's on the screen. They're way ahead of me. And what else? Oh yeah. Listen to the show in podcast form too. You can check that out on Apple, wherever you get podcasts. And please, 5-star reviews. Very helpful. Helps other people find the show. We like to get reviews. So if you can do that with a good conscience, please help us out. That would be fantastic. And that is it for today. I will see you guys on Tuesday. In the meantime, please stay safe and be kind.